Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron and welcome to Season 4. Surprisingly enough, we've lasted this long and I've been able to keep these guys coming back, but we get to talk football, so that helps. Bring it out. I'm Dutch, and as I said, we'll get into the college football, and I'll let the rest of the guys introduce themselves now. Back for Season 4, we've got our two returning guys.
Maul, and I couldn't be happier. I know we're talking college today, but I just saw something that was like talking about the Hall of Fame game. It's like we're rolling out we're running out Kenny Pickett versus Carson Beck. It's like, if you think I'm gonna tune in to watch that, it's like, you're goddamn right, I'm gonna tune into that.
At least we'll get to see Carson Beck still pick.
Yeah, and I'm Pops. I don't know if this hotel internet's going to keep up today, but I'm glad to be back talking football with the homies.
Yeah, for those of you who are able to see the video or not able to see the video, Pops is in a Best Western that looks like it has been cracked out for some time now. So if Pops' internet connection loses, he may have been shot by the neighboring room, but we don't know. I figured I'd throw on the Ricky Williams jersey since we're going to have Texas, I'm sure, in this conversation a little bit. But how we're going to roll the episode, we'll talk about each of the main four conferences, talk about who we think is going to win the conference. Really, we'll build everything around the playoff. That makes it easier because that's ultimately what matters at the end of the year. Maul did bring up a really good point, which I think is, me and him were talking on the phone the other day, in that now it is no longer like the highest rated conference champs of the top four conferences get an automatic bid in terms of ACC, Big 12, Big 10, and SEC. But that fifth team, it's just the highest rated team from a non-Power 5 conference that gets in. Doesn't mean that they're a conference champ. So like last year, Duke would have been in. They changed that rule around to make it where Duke was higher rated. They would have been in ahead of JMU because they were a conference champ. So just wanted to throw that out. That way you understand sort of the logic of going in. That being said, I did want to start it off with a question that we, and by we, I mean Pops and Maul and me, heard months ago, which I think is a great question. So the scenario is you got to risk your life savings, everything that you own. And here's the bet. You get to pick 5 teams in college football that just over the next 3 years, if any of those 5 teams win a national championship, you double your money. So you get 5 teams over the course of 3 years. As long as one of those 5 teams wins in the next 3 years, you double your money. Go. Who are you guys picking?
So I'll start out. Like it sounds easy initially, and I think probably like you guys, I had 3 immediately. And then I thought I had a 4th immediately as well. But then you start looking at, okay, if I take that 4th, now I only get to choose one more out of a group of, however many. Basically, I had 3 guarantees for me, and then there was 4 more teams that I was like, man, I got to choose 2 out of those. And again, when I thought I initially had a 4th, and then you start looking at who do I got to eliminate by keeping that 4th, it became a much tougher, exercise, if you will. So I'll start out with one, which is just the easy, and I imagine both of you have it. And if you don't, I'll just say you're crazy. And it's Ohio State. Ohio State has to be on everybody's list.
Is that true for you, Pops? It is for me.
Yes.
Well, who's your number 2? And we'll just see where we start to differ.
Okay. This is maybe I could see it differing here, but I'll give you my reasoning behind it. My number 2 is Notre Dame.
Pops, you got Notre Dame?
They were in my contenders, but no, I don't have them.
Wow. I have Notre Dame in there. I got a feeling I know exactly where Maul's going to go with this, and it's the same reason I have Notre Dame in if he goes down the path that I think he's about to.
So first off, it is a historic franchise. They're a blue blood, right? We can all agree on that. They have had sections of they weren't competitive, but right now, and again, we're talking the next 3 years, right now they've been competitive, very competitive over the last few years. And I imagine with Marcus Freeman, they're going to be competitive over the next 3 years. My biggest thing is that they have the easiest path to the playoffs over everyone. I mean, we have special rules written specifically for Notre Dame. And it comes down to a chip and a chair. Like, if you've got a chip and one chip is all you need at a poker table and a chair to sit in, you could win it all. All you need is a chip and a chair. And that's just from like a probability standpoint of like they are more likely going to get in over any other anything because they have special rules written for them. And all you have to do is get into the playoff and you can make a run. And it's not to say like, oh, I just, they're lucky. Like, they are still a good competitive team. I mean, you've seen they've made, the semis the last 2 years, or I guess not last year, they got snubbed, but prior to that, but they've been in the conversation is all I'm gonna say, and it's they have special rules written for that.
Yeah, and that rule is if they finish inside of the top 12 at the end of the rankings, they will kick out that number 12 team who would have gotten in, even if they weren't supposed to. Like, Notre Dame has that automatic buy-in, which is why I'm right there with you, Mo. I've got them, and just because it's one of those ones where it's just like, if you're going to give a team an advantage of they get an automatic in if they just finish in the top 12, and you look at Notre Dame's schedule, like this year, they really only have 2 tough games. It's like, chances are more teams are not going to be undefeated than not. They're going to have a couple losses. At the end of the season, you look at last year, it was like, we wrote Notre Dame off after 2 weeks, but we all said it. We were like, watch, Notre Dame's going to win out the rest of their games, none of which were really important. And by the end of the season, everyone's going to be like, well, Notre Dame's playoff team again. So
yeah, I mean, you brought up schedule. Like, they don't play in a conference. If anything, they play more of the probably weakest of the 4 Power 4 conferences. So they have all these special rules that are in their benefit.
And I guess in that regard, like, I can see why you guys put them into their into the top 5. But, I was sticking with the Notre Dame hate and pretty disappointed in you, Dutch, but it is what it is.
I'm trying to double my life savings. I got a lot to lose.
Yeah, hate only goes so far, but you're doubling life savings.
That old AC/DC song Money Talks, baby. Yeah. So, all right. We'll keep it going with Maul, and then we'll go with Pops to figure out where he was different. Maul, number 3.
My third pick is Oregon. Simply just because this comes down to, this was tough between like an Oregon versus like a Texas type of situation where it's like they're competitive and they get there, but they can't ever close. Like, so I'll spoiler alert, Texas isn't in mine, even though I wanted them to be. Oregon's kind of in the same boat. I just think from like a continuous money, what Dan Lanning has shown, I do think that Oregon, again, I don't have faith in the pick. If I only had one, I'm not picking them. But they're able to produce solid teams year in, year out, and they're probably making the playoffs every year, which again just kind of goes to that chip in a chair that I was talking about. So I've got Oregon as my number 3.
Pops, you got Oregon in your 5?
I sure do. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, I think a little bit, could have been Dan Lanning just, his first program, which granted, don't get me wrong, it's one of the biggest programs in the nation now. But I think that time's going to come in the next 5 years that Oregon's going to be able to knock the top off and go do it.
Maul, number 4.
Do you have Oregon in yours, Dutch?
Yeah, we're 3 for 3.
Okay. My number 4 is Georgia. And again, it's just one of those, like, we'll talk about this when we get into the conferences, but the SEC is tough, man. Like, it feels silly not having at least one SEC team in there. So if you had to pick one, mine is Georgia, simply because Kirby Smart is there. I mean, like they're back-to-back SEC champions. I mean, that alone, like they're kind of underrated, if you will, and kind of have been the last few years. But they're like the one consistent that like every year they're showing up, and they're not super flashy, especially not right now. They don't have the defenses of old. But with Kirby Smart still leading the helm, I mean, they're still SEC favorites, and it's hard to not think that they can't do it again as long as Kirby's there.
Ops, you got Georgia?
Sure do.
I do not. And we'll get into that here in a second of why. And Maul, rounding out your...
Well, who's your fourth then?
Well, I want to see what your fourth is, and we'll see if we go 4 for 5, or your 5 is, and then I'll get into all mine. Don't worry. And because it's going to give some debate. And of all people that I'm going to bring up on this podcast, Joel Klatt said something the other day that I was like, that is, when you think about it in terms of historical, it's why I chose a different team in the SEC over Georgia. And I'll get into that here in a second. But who rounds out your 5?
So when I came into, like, you think you had a fourth, my fourth initially was Texas, because I thought, one, I think they're kind of leading this year as far as the SEC. I think they have the most talent and probably can take it. But when I looked at Texas and I said, okay, who are my other teams that I'm looking at? It was Miami, Georgia, and Indiana. Those are really my only other options that I felt comfortable putting in there. So if I realized I wanted to take Texas, then I go, well, I also want to take Georgia. That means I have to leave out Indiana and Miami. I wasn't comfortable with that. So that's why I removed Texas, added Georgia, because I felt more confident with Georgia from like the 3-year standpoint as opposed to just this 1 year. Because again, as Pops will probably talk about, Sark just seems to not be able to like really finish it off. So then now it came down to Indiana versus Miami. Love Indiana. Love Curt Cignetti. Mainly because he's now already proven. We talked about it. When they had that first year, we were like, it's going to be difficult for them to repeat because now they have a target on their back, or at least to like get back to the playoff. I think last year, at least 2 out of the 3 of us didn't even have Indiana making the playoff, and then they went and won the whole dang thing. Curt Cignetti has proven he can do it with not a big-name school, or not a big-name school or big-name players. If he gets big-name players, I do feel confident that he could do it. But the Big Ten right now, from a top-down, I don't think they're the most competitive conference. I would still give that to the SEC. But from like tops of they are competing against, Ohio State, Oregon, you throw Michigan and USC in there every once in a while, Penn State. Like, it's just such a tough conference to really separate yourself. So I'm going with Miami as my number 5 pick, mainly, again, because chipping a chair, I think the ACC is relatively weak from a conference standpoint. I think if Miami, who is we'll call blue blood program, can get back to those days, which they're doing right now. And again, I'm only looking at the next 3 years. Cristobal has a good thing going right now. People want Miami to be good. There's so much talent that can flow to Miami. I think by getting that program continually built up, they're going to get into the playoff every single year. And they went to the ship with Carson Beck. Like, that's right there. Kind of gives back to the Cignetti of like, they don't need the big name flashy players. They just have so much raw talent down there. And Cristobal is a good coach. I think they could win one.
Did you have any? Or Miami?
I do have Miami rounding out my top 5. Just pretty much what Maul said. And I mean, look at last year. We all picked. Me and Dutch, we picked Clemson. And we just saw Dabo just blow up a team. I think it's only a matter of time before Dabo just pieces out, or maybe they just give him the Nick Saban treatment for what he did years ago, even though he's he's like, maybe 75% of what Saban is. I think Dabo is going to find his way out. Florida State is still going to continue to suck. Georgia Tech lost all their players and their coaches. Like, I think Miami's going to have their way with the ACC in the future.
Well, you got one more team. So you had Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Miami. So who's your fifth, Pops?
I think with all the extra money that this coach just got, that they're going to make quite a big difference and bring it back. Give me LSU.
That was my SEC team. So
yeah, baby.
Joe Klatt said something, and I was like, man, that's a pretty good point. So it was in context of how good of a coach Saban was. And he talked about like every single recruiting class that Saban had, they won. And he goes, when you look historically over college football, what typically happens is a coach gets like a really good few years of recruiting cycle, whether it's Urban Meyer at Florida, Urban Meyer at Ohio State, Dabo at Clemson. You could even throw Ryan Day in there from this year at Ohio State, and they get a small window of like a year or two that they're really dominant, but keeping that trend going is difficult. Like, there hasn't been coaches that over a span of a decade have won multiple in terms of after winning one, 5 years later, win another one. It's difficult for coaches to do, and no one's really done it. Even when you go back to like Tom Osborne in the 90s, like it was just like one within a 4-year window, super competitive. So I sort of look at like Georgia and like, do I love Georgia? Yes. And I think to Maul's point, because I was wanted to phrase it, I think the SEC, if you took the average, is a better, like has better teams. But I think that the Big Ten right now has a better like top 4. Like, yes, I think that the 100%. Teams in the Big Ten who are like really good would be the better teams in the SEC than the SEC as a whole. But I think the SEC does sort of wear on one another. I think they're good teams. There's no one in the SEC this year that I like look at and I'm like, yo, that team's going to be a dog. Like they have everything. I don't see that. But when I look at the Big Ten, it's hard not to look, because for me, I've got, crazy enough, 3 Big Ten teams: Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. I've got Notre Dame and LSU. I just sort of look at Kiffin and I go, I think that he'll get some hype. Like, LSU will have the money. They have the talent. Like, they have the players. My biggest question for Kiffin is, can he build a defense? Like, LSU's always been known for that, but Kiffin's never been known for that. He's always had like this high octane offense. And even with Ole Miss, like last year, did they have a really, I would say, a better than most defense? Yes, but it still wasn't like in this elite category. They were still having to outscore everyone that they played just to win games. Good football team. I just don't know if that's going to be able to win him. But of all the SEC teams, I just go, I think with the newness, the flashiness, I can see him pulling some recruits away, especially with Bama being down. Like, I think the only thing that's going to ruin the LSU pick, if they fired DeBoer in 2 years, they're going to hire Kiffin. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Listen, I love the LSU pick. It's on the same thought process of Miami for me. Like, if dudes still wanted to go to LSU, even under Brian Kelly, like, LSU can recruit dudes just because it's LSU. Like, Miami can recruit dudes just because it's Miami. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter who the coach is, because, like, that's what will take them to the Natty. But as far as, like, talent pool, yeah, like, you're there, dude. So I'm with you on the LSU pick. And, again, Lane Kiffin, it's a great school historically. They always get talent. Lane Kiffin is a good coach. He just needs like something small extra to take him over that edge. And honestly, I mean, I thought he found it last year with Ole Miss. And talk about Ole Miss, for God's sakes, that he turned them into that kind of powerhouse. He's clearly stepped up his game above like the Lincoln Rileys of like, you can make a quarterback look good and an offense look good, but how do you build an entire team? And I think Lane is there. So I do love the LSU pick.
Now, Pops, I'll go ahead and serve you up this one since they were not in your top 5. I can already tell you, I know why Maul's answer of why did USC not make his top 5. It starts with Lincoln and ends with Riley. For you, Texas, why was Texas not in your 5?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, he dropped off.
He said, I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to talk about Texas. Why they didn't make his top 5.
I don't want to speak for him, but I kind of had mentioned it earlier. It's just, I think it's kind of the same Lincoln Riley type of thing. Like, Sark can put together these good teams. He's done it in multiple places, but he just doesn't have that edge that these national championship winning coaches have that can fully, push him over that edge. Like, I mean, if last year wasn't kind of a quintessential Sark type season, I don't know what is. Like, coming in as like the preseason number 1, you got the best quarterback in the world, guaranteed Heisman as long as he just holds on to the ball. And I don't want to say they completely, crap the bed, but it felt like that from an expectation standpoint. And now by the end of the year, they kind of got the train back on the tracks, but it was just too little too late. And that's like, that's just Sark. He always just comes up this short on everything. And fandom aside, when you're betting your life savings on them winning a natty, it is tough to pick them.
Yeah. I just think last year it was like if they had just not lost to Florida, they would have been a shoo-in. But then even when you take a look like at the back end of the season, you go, dude, it was a neck-and-neck game with Vanderbilt. It was a neck-and-neck game with Kentucky.
State.
Mississippi State. Yeah, they needed like these comebacks there at the end, which, don't get me wrong, by the end of the season, they did look a lot better on offense than how they started off the season. But from a standpoint of, like, as you said, the expectations walking into the season, it's weird because this year, I'm not here. I think everyone sort of looks back at the SEC, and tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like Texas is the best team in the SEC this year on paper. Like, does anyone have a problem with that?
I don't.
I mean, 40. What is it? 40 million for the roster?
I would say that's an under.
It's arguable, but again, at the end of the day, like, paper means nothing when it comes down to playing these games. And
I agree. I just sort of sit back and look at him and I go, if you think that, like, Sark was on the hot seat last year, I think that if they don't make headway this year, he's done. Like,
yeah,
because Arch will be out the door.
That could be a good reason why not to put Texas from this next 3 years standpoint. It's like, yeah, could they win it and maybe should they win it this year? Sure. But if they don't, like, and if they fall, we'll say relatively short, like not making the playoffs again, Sark's probably gone. Arch is going to the NFL, and then what he left with, and you're like, that's a wasted pick for the following 2 years. So I can totally see that.
So I'll go back to you now that you're back, Pops. Why no Texas in year 5?
I mean, it's exactly what you guys were saying when I popped up. Like, I just don't believe in Sark. I don't know if you heard that part before I had to disconnect, but I don't believe in him. There's just been too many issues getting the team going, getting the team playing. I mean, in all fairness, he was able to go with Quinn Ewers, and they ended up losing against Washington deep into the playoffs a couple years ago. But I think the progression with Arch is going to be there this year, hopefully. I mean, I know his ability to play was very shaky to begin the season. I think all that pressure of, it's another Manning, I think that got to him. We talked about all that stuff last year. I think we will see good stuff out of him there, but again, it comes back to Sark. I mean, did you guys hear my Red River from 2 years ago rant?
No.
So, it was, a couple years ago with the Red River shootout. It's 1st and goal, and he runs the same play 4 times in a row and gets stuffed within 10 yards. It's like, it's things like that where you're like, Sark's supposed to be this offensive genius, and it's just not that It's not there. So that's kind of where I laid, just same thing that you guys were saying when I got logged back in.
This year, on paper, like, they go out and get 2 guys from NC State that are the running back. Smothers is going to be really good. The Cam Coleman from Auburn, the wide receiver, I think that in that offense, he should thrive. Like, in terms of when you think of like what Jeremiah Smith's able to do with Ohio State, I think Cam Coleman is going to be right in that conversation with Jeremiah, like for the Biletnikoff, if not possibly, depending on how. The only thing that would limit him in the Heisman is that
Arch.
the attention is going to be, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll be on Arch. Like,
The guy throwing him the ball.
exactly. Like, that will take a little bit of the sun away from him. But from the only thing I sit back with Texas is can the offensive line protect Arch? And then 2, can their defense rise up? Because I sort of look at last year and it was like they did struggle against some teams. Like, they had their own problems with Mississippi State, I think, put up 37 points. Like, Vanderbilt was right there. They've had troubles throughout Sark's whole time against the defense, really getting a defense. So that's my biggest point with Texas, as we'll see how the best Western's killing Pops right now. So he's losing that battle. But we'll finish it out with me and Maul. So we'll start Big Ten, just because I think that's probably the toughest conference. Who you got winning the Big Ten?
So it's you kind of mentioned it. Toughest conference, I still wouldn't say is the Big Ten. The most elite conference right now, I would say, is the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Toughest conference, I still give to the SEC. And we kind of talk about that. Like, the cream of the crop is, yes, the top of the Big Ten. That's why they've won it the last 3 years. But from a top to bottom standpoint, I still think the SEC is the most completely built. But Big Ten, I've got Oregon winning it this year. I went through this year in the Big Ten is interesting. We talked about this, and I went through all the schedules as far as like just who everybody is playing, and across the board, they're all interesting. I'll just say that. Really, Oregon starts off with Boise State. I think that's going to be a great preview for Boise State. I also, spoiler alert, I've got Boise State making it for the group of 6 because they don't play anybody else after Oregon.
Same.
So it'll give me confidence in that pick if Boise State can at least look respectable, and they probably will just because it's week 1. You know how that goes. There's just a lot of mistakes. It's kind of a slower game, so they'll be able to kind of keep up with it. But the Big Ten, again, there's kind of this top 3 right now that are really dominant, and it could go any direction. I've just got Oregon kind of coming out on top.
Something else that Klatt said I want to throw out to you, because it's the only I want to pick Indiana again, to be really honest, and his point was good, is he's like, go back to week 1 before anyone's played. He's like, you look at the rosters. He's like, there's no bias in terms of, well, I don't want to hurt my guys or something. Texas number 1, Ohio State number 2. And then you have Indiana out there. Do you think that either Sark or Ryan Day, not knowing anything, would have traded their rosters for Indiana at the beginning of the last season?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. They really took a roster of a bunch of really guys that no one had a lot of respect for and went undefeated and dominated and won a national championship. It gives me pause with Indiana this year, because I definitely feel like there's this doubt on just one, it's Indiana. They're not getting the respect. 2, we understand it is very difficult to repeat. And it's even harder to repeat when you're changing a quarterback, running back, 2 wide receivers, most of your offensive line, pretty much all of your they're bringing in total new guys. Now, the good news for Indiana is they stacked up in the portal. They go out and get Hoover from TCU. They've been able to replace guys, and I do trust Cignetti from the coach. For me, Cignetti and Kirby are very close. I think both ultra disciplinarians. They're going to have their guys well coached and go out on the field. The question is can the pieces fall in? Their only game, in all honesty, for Indiana, comes down to Ohio State. Like, that's the game of the year. And funny enough, that's when Pops comes out to watch. He's coming to watch the Bears play in Atlanta, and that Saturday is Ohio State, Indiana. So I'm like, okay, well, we already got plans that Saturday, so I ain't doing nothing.
I'm with you, and I talked about it in kind of our top 5. Like, Cignetti's proven that he can win with, I'll say it, and this is no disrespect, but like a ragtag kind of roster. Like, he doesn't need those names, and he's a good enough coach to do it. So yeah, they're still in it. I still got them making the playoffs. It comes down to quarterback play for me. Dante Moore, I think, is just, in my mind, kind of front-running the Heisman, mainly just because Oregon's going to put up a lot of stats and a lot of points. And he already was kind of a Heisman talk last year. So Dante Moore, here's the tough thing about the portal for me, is that there's a lot of movement and there's some good, but every move isn't this like, ooh, this made our team better. Like, don't get me wrong, is Hoover an okay quarterback? Yeah. But were we really singing his praises at TCU? No. So it's like, is that a good pickup for them to replace Mendoza? Sure, because you had to replace Mendoza. But like, am I really that excited about it? No. It's kind of like the Sorsby thing at Texas Tech. Was he just like the best thing in the portal that they could get? Sure. Did that mean like all of a sudden that they were going to win the Natty? No, but that's how we talk about these portal moves sometimes. And I'm trying to kind of get through the noise of like, just because you made a pickup doesn't necessarily mean it was a good one. So not to say that Hoover's bad. I just go, when you put, would you rather have Dante Moore or Josh Hoover? Like, take it Dante Moore.
I get it. The only like devil's advocate would be no one was talking about Mendoza when he came out of Cal. Like,
fair. Totally fair. Totally fair. But
it's hard to strike gold twice.
Yes. Right.
It really is. So I've got Oregon as well. SEC. Who's your team?
I've got Texas winning it. And again, we've already kind of talked about it a few times. Like, just on paper, it's hard not to pick them. If Arch can play like he played at the end of the year, hopefully Sark has worked with him enough in the offseason that like the game isn't moving too fast for him. He can make better decisions because he is very talented. They do have a fantastic roster. Their schedule is a little tougher, and this is like consistent with the SEC. They play a lot of good matchups. There's going to be like two lost teams in the SEC championship, in my opinion. Like, it's a tough sled for all of the SEC teams. That being said, though, to Greg McElroy's point, we let in, like 5 SEC teams?
Yes, 5 last year.
We still love the SEC. Like, from a fandom and like ranking standpoint, the SEC still gets all of the love. So like, there is going to be extra slots for SEC teams.
Now, that being said, I do want to just point this out. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's SEC bias. Yes, not arguing. The ACC and the Big 12 had 1 team each in it. The non-power 4 schools had 2. They had JMU and Tulane. So it's like the fact that, you had 2 schools from
the one who won the ACC didn't even make it.
Dude, oh my gosh. So this was my thing with Pops did send us his chart, so I'll go through it here in a second. That way he gets a shout out. Texas's schedule is brutal. So week 2, the nice thing is they get Ohio State at home. They don't have to go up to Ohio State. It'll be that game will be killer. It'll be fantastic. But then you look to Tennessee, then they had the Red River Shootout. I think Florida's going to be a tough opponent versus Ole Miss, versus Mississippi State, at Missouri, at LSU, which that if either one of those teams are, if those teams are doing well, that will be at night in Death Valley. And then to end the season, it's at A&M. If they lose to, it's not just like from an SEC standpoint, but if they lose to Ohio State, they have to go to the SEC championship and win, or else they're going to be in a serious danger of getting eliminated from the playoff just because of the number of losses.
Listen, I don't disagree with you, and this is why I was kind of prefacing it. You listen to that, and you're like, man, that is tough. Go through everybody else's SEC schedule. Like, everybody else has got the same sled, dude. It is a tough go this year.
Well, you say that, and this is my team that I think that they actually end up going undefeated and they go to the SEC championship. It's Georgia. So Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, at Arkansas, and then they have a good 6-game stretch that is tough. Versus Oklahoma, but they get them at home. Vanderbilt's not going to be anything this year. They go to Bama. I think that the SEC championship last year, where they just stomped them, I think you are going to see that. I have zero faith in Bama. Versus Auburn, but they get them at home. Then the world's biggest cocktail party, they've dominated that for the past few years. I still think it will be a tough game. Then they go to Ole Miss, which I don't think. We'll just see how Ole Miss is at that point in the season. Then Missouri, at South Carolina, Georgia Tech. Like, from the standpoint of, like, yet again, Georgia dodges having to go to Texas A&M for the 15th straight year they've been in the conference, and yet Georgia has yet to go down and play in Aggie land. Drives me insane. They don't have to play Texas. Like, I just sort of look back and it's like, they got Bama, and that's about it.
So I'll give you that. From the schedule standpoint, I have Georgia at 12-0, at worst 11-1. I have Texas at best 11-1, maybe 10-2. But I think one of those losses could possibly be to Ohio State, which then doesn't count against their SEC record. So then they will go to the SEC championship against Georgia. So I agree with you from who finishes the year with maybe a better record, probably Georgia. But I think that Texas bests them in the SEC championship. So Texas is my winner. But you have Georgia winning the SEC championship.
Yes. Now, I'm going to guess, just based upon how high he has them ranked, that Pops has LSU winning the SEC. He's got him number 3 in his bracket, which they get the quarterback from Arizona State. So Lane's going to find
Sam Leavitt.
Yeah, Leavitt. So he took Chambliss, made him what he was. Took Jackson Dark, made him what he was. I think Kiffin, as long as he has a guy that he can just somewhat trust, they will look good. And as you said, LSU can recruit. That was the whole reason he left Ole Miss, is it was so much easier to be like, you want to come to LSU?
His ceiling is capped.
Yes, 100%. So the difficult thing is, I just don't see it in year one. It's so difficult to come out. The good thing is he knows the SEC. It's not like he's walking into a new conference trying to fill it out like DeBoer was. He knows what he's getting into. It's just a matter of, can he get the right pieces into the right place at the right time? I still have them in the playoff, but I just don't have them winning the SEC.
Yeah, same. They were my last one in, and it was going back and forth. Just based on what I think their record is, it's going to be a very tough ask. But I went back to, just like last year, there's going to be spots for SEC teams, and if it comes down to a 9-3 LSU team versus an 11-1 SMU team, they're going to put in LSU guaranteed.
Yeah. Now, Pops had Oregon winning the Big Ten. He has them as his number 2 team overall in his bracket. We'll get into our brackets here in a second, but that's since his internet is dying like everyone else at that hotel. I just got to read it off of this sheet of paper. All right. ACC. You got anyone else other than Miami?
Listen, I love LSU this year. LSU. SMU. I love SMU. Really do. I think Kevin Jennings is a real deal, dude. He is a very good quarterback. But again, we talked about strength of conference, and there's only so many spots. If you look at Miami versus SMU's schedule, they both play Notre Dame, and they'll both possibly lose to Notre Dame. So they'll have an equal record. I think Miami beats SMU because they don't play each other. If they go what I think they'll go, they'll meet in the ACC championship, and I think Miami will best them there. So again, now we're looking at an 11-2 possibly SMU team. I just don't see that getting put in above like a 9-3 LSU or something like that. So I really do like SMU this year. I just can't. I don't think they can beat Miami, mainly because Darian Mensah is now Miami's quarterback.
And I think he's way better than Carson Beck was.
Well, as much as I like to hate on Carson Beck, Carson Beck had the experience to get that Miami team to where they were. If he was a little bit better, they probably win it. Darian Mensah, I think, is really good. He's a mobile threat, whereas Carson Beck wasn't super mobile. And again, with Miami's defense, I think they may have one loss to Notre Dame, which again won't count against them. I just think Miami's too strong. They're going to take the ACC, and then maybe SMU needs help, in my opinion, and they really have to put on a show for people, because if they don't beat Notre Dame, they don't have a lot of good wins on their schedule, and they're going to have to beat Miami in the ACC to make it. Now, I can see a world in which SMU beats Miami, so they're guaranteed one of those spots, and then they kick out maybe another SEC team to keep Miami in the playoff. I see that happening as well.
We'll see if you can guess it. They're not in my playoff. They're not anything. I just want to throw it out there as a sleeper team in the ACC that could cause some trouble.
Cal.
Yes, 100%. I can easily see them playing in the ACC conference championship game. And
listen, if a 9-4 Duke can win the whole thing, let's be honest. This is where I go back to the SMU conversation. If 9-4 Duke can win the ACC, anybody can.
Yes. Pops has Miami as his number one team in the bracket. So I think the only question I have for Miami this year, which we'll talk about, is how do you replace the guys they lost on the defense? I love Malachi Tony. I think he'll do wonders. And the reason I say Mensah's better than Beck is a mobility standpoint. It adds that variable to the offense that it's just a tough team to guard offensively. Speed kills. My question is can that defense, after losing two just huge guys on the defensive line that, really kept him in the game versus Indiana, Carson Beck had the ball with a chance to go down and win the game through a pick. They were right there. They gave Indiana everything that they wanted. After watching Indiana just pummel teams, we really thought that Indiana was going to go in there and just smack Miami. And Miami held their own the entire game. Played a really good game with Carson Beck. It took Mendoza running for that touchdown that really sealed it for him.
Heisman winning moment.
Yes. That was it. Miami is a really good team. I just wonder, can they have an immediate impact on defense? That's my only concern with Miami. I have Miami winning the ACC as well. We already answered the Power 5 in terms of our team. Both of us have Boise State going in. Let me take a look real quick and see if I can diagnose who. Pops has Boise State as well. He's got them as number 12. Big 12, who you got? And let's see. Based upon Pops has got Texas Tech.
So I have BYU. And the Big 12 is tough for me in this one because there's four teams that I really like. BYU, Texas Tech, Houston. Dude, if there's one thing that I think we'll probably all get wrong is that no one's going to talk about Houston. And I think I would say even more so than Cal. Cal is a sleeper pick, but it's it's kind of a long shot. I really don't even think Houston's that big of a long shot. Houston, I think, is going to be a problem for a lot of teams this year. And then my sleeper out of the Big 12 is OK State. I think it's just going to be one of those like, I know. What? I know. Just it. I think they're going to probably play spoiler more than anything else. I don't think that they really have the pieces to win it all, but I think OK State is going to ruin some people's chances out of the Big 12. I like BYU better than Texas Tech, but from a standpoint of schedule, Texas Tech's only opponent that I think gives them any trouble is Houston. Like, that's their toughest opponent.
I think the only opponent that gives BYU I'm looking at BYU's schedule, is Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah, week 7. So again, I think Texas Tech and BYU meet in the Big 12 championship because they don't play anybody, and I've got BYU winning because of the quarterback play.
Yes. I mean, we
talked about that last year. Bear, I think, is just so full of talent. The moment was way too big for him. It just was. Whether it was true or not, it sure looked like it watching it on TV. And this is going to be one of those like Arch Manning things of like, now he's got that under his belt. I think he's going to be able to come through this year. And they kept their coach. They got a lot of, spunk and energy, and they're ready for it. I think BYU can do it this year.
I really think he was hurt at the end of last year too, and that played a factor, especially in the Pop-Tart Bowl. That's just me. I've got BYU as well. I actually have them as the number 3 team because I think that they beat Notre Dame, and I think because Notre Dame's got to go there. I mean, me and I've been to BYU once, didn't play, but was there, and at night that's a difficult place to play. Like it in the mountains, it will be loud, and that team I think is very well disciplined. I can see them beating Notre Dame just because I don't know how Notre Dame. The only thing that like makes me nervous about Notre Dame this year, their schedule's easy. Like they have a great schedule. They play Miami and BYU. That's their 2 tough teams. They got to figure out how to replace Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love, their number 1 and number 2 backs. Can Notre Dame do that? 100%. It's a tough build to now you're going to put way more pressure on the quarterback this year to say, hey, you got to go out and win these games when you have, not a guy that was really a Heisman finalist going into last year with Jeremiah Love to turn around and hand the ball to. So that being said, I'll go through Pomps' first. So Pomps has number 1, he's got Miami. Number 2, Oregon. 3, LSU. He's got Notre Dame coming in at 4. His 5 is Ohio State. 6 is Georgia. 7 is Texas. 8 is Texas Tech. 9 is Indiana. 10 is Oklahoma. 11, he's got the SMU pick sneaking in. And at 12, he's got Boise State. So he's got 2 teams from the ACC making it with Miami and SMU. For you want to go through your 1 through 12, and then we'll sort of talk about playoff matchups.
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily rank them in order. I kind of just went through like who I thought was going to win each one. I was also under the impression, and I don't know if this is true or not, that the highest ranked group of 5 or Power 6 or group of 6, whatever they're calling it now since the Pac-12 is part of it, I had them at 6 because I thought like that was just one of the guaranteed makes it, and then everybody else would be like at large bids, but I don't know if that's true or not.
I think they make it. It does, but they don't have like a set rank if they make it.
If they're ranked lower than, say, like the 3rd place SEC team, they'll be like 12th as opposed to 6th. So in that case, then yeah, Boise State's my 12 because they're making it in. I got LSU at 11. I got Ole Miss at 10. I got Texas Tech at 9. Indiana at 8. But the 4 conference winners, they get a guaranteed 1, 2, 3, or 4. Correct?
No,
No.
same as last year.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
So if BYU wins the Big 12, but they're ranked 15th,
They would get automatically in, but
they don't get a 1, 2, 3, or 4 spot.
correct.
They don't get the bye.
No, because Notre Dame jacked that up.
See, so then my rankings are screwed up then, because I assumed by winning the conference you got the automatic bid and one of the first 4 spots.
I can double check, but I'm pretty sure that is not correct.
Because I had Oregon, Texas, Miami, then BYU. But if BYU, I don't think BYU is going to be in the top 4 by the end of the year. So you'd have to throw them in like the 8 seed or something like that for me.
Yep, so Power 4 champs, each champion from the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC receives an automatic bid regardless of their final ranking. So they could not even be in the committee's top 25, but if you win the conference, you're in. So like Duke last year, Duke would have been in. Group of 6, the highest ranked champion or team from the remaining FBS conferences receives 1 automatic spot. Notre Dame secures an automatic bid if they finish the regular season ranked inside the top 12 of the final CFP committee selection. The remaining vacant spots on the 12-team field go to the highest ranked at-large candidates. Top 4 seeds, the 4 highest ranked teams chosen by the committee receive first-round byes regardless of whether they are conference champs.
Okay. So then, let me restart here. I'll start from the top. I got number 1 Oregon, number 2 Texas. I'm gonna go number 3 Miami and number 4 Notre Dame, and then I'm gonna go 5 Indiana. No, I'm sorry, 5 Ohio State, 6 Georgia, 7 Indiana, 8 BYU, 9 Texas Tech, 10 Ole Miss, 11 LSU, 12 Boise State.
All right. For me, I've got 1 being Oregon, so we're in the same boat with that. 2, I've got Georgia, just because I think they go undefeated. 3, I've got BYU. I think they end up beating Notre Dame, go undefeated in the Big 12. 4, I have Ohio State. I think that their only loss is to Oregon. 5, I've got Texas. 6, I have Notre Dame. 7, I have Indiana. 8, I have Miami. 9, here's first curveball, USC. 10, I've got LSU. 11, Texas Tech. And 12, Boise State. So here's my logic. I keep going back to the amount of teams that got in. I don't see 2 non-Power 5 schools getting in this year, so someone's got to get an extra slot. Like, I don't think it's the ACC. The Big 12, I can see Texas Tech and BYU, due to the fact that they play one another in the conference title, both possibly being undefeated.
That's what I have.
Yeah, that you put both of them in. I don't see a world in which the SEC yet again beats the Big 10 out again for another like year in terms of number of teams in. The thing that gives me hope for USC is your quarterback. Like, you got a guy who knows how to play. Like,
listen, I was like reading up on like quarterback rankings and like Heisman favorites and everything, and it threw Jordan Mailata out there, which Jordan Mailata is a great quarterback. But the reasoning in this article, it was like Jordan Mailata, and it was like, if you're not high on him, here's 3 things. It was like, does he play for Lincoln Riley? Is he a quarterback? He's a Heisman favorite. Like, and it's true. I mean, like, it sounds silly and it's stupid, but like, if there's one thing Lincoln Riley can do really well, it's make a quarterback look stinking good.
yes. And I sort of look at USC, and I think that in turn they got to replace Lemon and
Jacoby Lane.
Jacoby Lane. Lincoln's always done that. Like, it's not this like can they do it? It's just who are they going to do it with? Like he finds the guys to put together an offense. The defense is always going to be the question. I just look at when you have a guy come back, having that, experience under center makes him a dangerous threat. The problem is it's like their schedule's tough.
Very tough. So this is, I think this is just bad timing here for USC. Like, do we have returners? Yes, we have a ton of offensive and defensive returners. We have the same coach. We have the same quarterback. We went and got Gary Patterson. Remember the old TCU coach that was really good? He's now our defensive coordinator. So I at least have faith in our defense should get better. We got the number 1 recruiting class coming in, which should have some impact right away. All of the stars are aligning for us to start making a run. It's just bad timing from a schedule standpoint. Our schedule this year is way harder than we had last year. We played
San Diego,
Oregon week 4.
Yep.
Penn State, which, it's a big game because it's
at
Big
Penn
Ten.
State.
It's at Penn State. Then we play Ohio State week 9, and then Indiana week 11.
At Indiana.
We have to win 2 of those 3 versus Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. And yeah,
I think just 1.
I don't. I think we have to win 2. And I want it to happen so bad. I just don't think it does. I think we could possibly get by Indiana. I just don't see us outplaying Oregon and Ohio State, and I think that will be our downfall.
The only thing I go back to is this. We talk about like there's not a lot of excellent teams or like super elite teams in the SEC, but they're all good. I think that you're going to have, your point earlier was you think you're going to have an SEC title game of 2 teams with 2 losses possibly. Like I think that the rest of the conference, like you're looking at like the floors for teams this year is a lot lower than in years past. Like
Sure.
Bama could have 5 losses.
Yeah.
Texas could have 5. Like there's some there is a lot of room for someone like USC, even if they had 3 losses. It's like, yeah, we had 3 losses. Bama had 5, and ours were against the 3 teams that are making the playoff: Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. So
that's a discussion that definitely will need to be had. That's why, though, I say they have to win 2 of those games, because if they can escape and only have 2 losses, they'll 100% be in the discussion. When it comes down to it, if you're already going to have Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana in the playoff, I think it's going to be tough for them to keep out one of these, bigger named SEC schools that has kind of gotten beat up all year with their tough schedules. They have a path for sure. I love that you picked them. I couldn't. I just don't have the faith or the confidence yet.
So I'll go through Pops' first, since he's not here to defend himself. We can always make fun of him. Ohio State, Boise State, he's got Ohio State winning. They would go on to face Notre Dame. Indiana, Texas Tech, he's got Indiana winning that game. They would go on to play Miami. SMU, Georgia, he's got Georgia winning. They would go play LSU, which is funny because you and him are going to have the exact same matchup. And then he has, this would be an amazing playoff game. Oklahoma would have to go to Texas as your 10 versus 7 seed, which would be the fact that they always have the shootout every year and it's not a true home game. To see that game at Texas would be, the committee would love that from a money standpoint. Like you couldn't ask for a better matchup, and he's got Texas winning that game and going and playing Oregon. For you, starting off with your 9 versus 8 seed, you've got Texas Tech playing BYU. Who you got winning?
Again, it's just going to be a rematch of the Big 12 championship, and I got BYU winning it.
Ohio State versus Boise. I'm going to go with Ohio State that you've got going. Indiana versus Ole Miss.
This one's tough. Again, sitting here without having seen it, I'm going to give it to Ole Miss. And again, it's just a purely Ole Miss is bringing back Keywan Lacey and Chambliss. I think Chambliss is a Heisman front runner. This is the quarterback play that I talked about versus Hoover. Don't get me wrong, Cignetti's going to have his boys ready, but I think Ole Miss is just going to be too much for him, so I'm giving it to Ole Miss.
Then Georgia versus LSU.
Give me Georgia.
For me, my 9 versus 8 was USC Miami. I had Miami winning that game. Then I had Texas versus Boise as the 5 versus 12. I got Texas winning that game. Indiana versus LSU is my 7 versus 10. I've got Indiana winning that game. And then I've got Notre Dame playing Texas Tech, and I've got Notre Dame winning that game. So for Pops, then the quarterfinals, he's got Ohio State playing Notre Dame, Indiana playing Miami, Georgia playing LSU, and then Texas playing Oregon. He has Ohio State winning, beating Notre Dame. He's got Miami beating Indiana. He's got Georgia beating LSU, and he's got Oregon beating Texas. So Sark's out round 2. For you, you've got BYU playing Oregon. Who you got?
Oregon.
You've got Ohio State playing Notre Dame. This is tough.
Yeah,
it'd be a great game.
Again, I think this would be a great game, but give me Ohio State.
Ohio State's winning on that. Then you've got Texas playing Ole Miss.
Texas.
And then finally, you've got Miami playing Georgia. Georgia. For me, I've got Miami playing Oregon. I've got Oregon winning that game. I've got Ohio State playing Texas. I've got Texas winning the game. Then I've got Indiana playing Georgia. I've got Indiana winning the game. As crazy as that sounds. Then what I think will probably be the game of the year will be BYU playing Notre Dame in a rematch. I think BYU gets them first, and the problem is it's hard to beat someone twice, and that's why I've got Notre Dame winning that game. So the national championship, conference championships per se, I'd have Oregon playing Texas, Indiana playing Notre Dame. You've got Oregon playing Notre Dame, and you've got Texas playing Miami.
Nope, I got Oregon playing Ohio State, right?
Excuse me. Oregon playing Ohio State. My bad. I had accidentally marked Notre Dame. Pops has got Ohio State playing Miami and Georgia playing Oregon. Pops has Miami winning that game and Georgia winning the game. So he's got a Miami-Georgia national championship game. And then for you, you've got Oregon playing Ohio State.
I'm giving it to Oregon.
And then you've got Texas playing Miami.
No, I got Texas playing
Georgia.
And I got Texas.
I've got my Oregon playing Texas. I've got Oregon winning the game. And then I've got Indiana playing Notre Dame. And I've got Indiana winning that game. So I've got an Indiana-Oregon national championship, a rematch of the playoff semifinal from last year. And then Pops, Miami, Georgia. He's got Georgia winning it all. So Pops is going with Georgia this year. Means Georgia's going to lose first 3 weeks of the season. They'll be out. So anyone who's looking at future bets, these are the teams to not pick to win your national title game. Maul, you've got Oregon playing Texas. Who wins?
Oregon.
And then funny enough, I've got Indiana playing Oregon. I've got Oregon winning the national championship. I think.
Wait, I thought you just had Indiana, Oregon in your semis.
Nope, I had Oregon, Texas. Oregon won. Indiana, Notre Dame. Indiana won. So it's Indiana, Oregon for the national championship, and I've got Oregon winning. I go back to Dante Moore, sort of like I do Mailova with USC, or like a lot of these teams outside of like LSU. Like, it's the reason BYU's there. It's the reason Ohio State's there. Like, the teams that I have in here outside of Texas Tech, which is a toss, I just think that they're still going to be a good, they have enough money to find some guys. Like Was Sorosby going to be missed? Yes, but do I think that they're going to have a solution? Also, yes, because it happened far enough away that they can still like get a lot of reps with the guy who's going to end up starting, who coincidentally got hurt last year. He wasn't even the starter.
Hammond played great for Texas Tech. He really did.
So I sort of look at it and I go, I think that they'll be there. LSU's got a new guy, but he's also had experience, so it's not like this far-fetched thing. Indiana's got Hoover, who yet again, no one's like, it's experience at the quarterback position. Like, that's what you got to have. Like, I just don't see it.
I completely agree. I would just say, though, there are tiers to these transfers. Like, am I putting Sam Levitt and Josh Hoover in the same tier as, like, Trinidad Chambliss and Dante Moore? Like, no, right? Like, just because you pick up a new guy doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's better than nothing, but if you're going to give me the guy who's, I thought, already better and staying in the same offense with the same team over a guy transferring and learning a new offense, it's like, that's an easy pick in my decision.
So of all the team, I didn't tell you this question was coming. You can't pick any of the teams that you just had. So none of the teams in the top 12, who's the one sleeper that could come out and win everything that was not in your top 12?
Probably come up with a couple. I want to say USC because I didn't put them in my top 12. Because, again, if they do what they need to, they could there is a path for them. But I could say Oklahoma or Texas A&M.
I'm glad that was mine, was A&M, because the reason I asked is I had written them down because they were like my team that I was like, like, I want to put them in the play.
I looked at all their schedules to see.
Yes. They just sort of, like, they have an easy start, but it's week 4, they go to LSU. Now, the good news, it's like a good versus bad news for them. For LSU, they will have just came off going to Ole Miss. So if they can go into Ole Miss and come out with a victory, I think that then getting Texas A&M at home, like, it will be a night game again they start all off at night. They literally start off, LSU starts with Clemson at night on ABC. I'm not worried about Clemson. Who knows who they're even starting this year. Versus Louisiana Tech at Ole Miss, and then it's Texas A&M. Like, Texas, that's a huge game for A&M going in. Then it's versus Arkansas at Mizzou, the Citadel. They do have to go to Alabama. I just don't put that in the context that it was under Saban. We've seen teams like Oklahoma and other teams go into Tuscaloosa and win at South Carolina, Tennessee, at Oklahoma, and Texas. That the last 5 weeks will determine everything for A&M. At Bama, at South Carolina, Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas. Like, it'll be great games. The nice thing for A&M they get a returning quarterback and Elko with that defense. Like, they have a good defense.
Yeah, again, I'm putting Marcel Reed up there in like a already super talented, stays in the same offense, stays in, the same school. He's not transferring, learning a new playbook, anything like that. And then, like you said, Mike Elko in that defense. Like, there's a reason they went undefeated last year. You can call it a cakewalk, call it whatever. Like, they still went undefeated where other schools hadn't been able to do that before. I don't say they didn't go undefeated, but to the point where, like, they were the number 1 team, I think, at one point last year. So, like, they could do it.
100%. We'll find out. So, well, that wraps up the college. As you said, I am 100%. I know it's not going to be pretty, but I am 100% watching the Hall of Fame game tonight. For those of you, just a little side note, I'm already counting it down for the NFL. A few weeks ago, Maul was with his family down in Disney, which Florida's a state you can legally bet, Georgia you cannot. And when all the Aaron Donald possibly coming back, I just asked him, I was like, what's the Rams' future to win the Super Bowl? He's like, plus 550. And so I sent him $100 and just said, let's let it ride, because in the case that the Rams, now that I mean, Miles Garrett, or not, Aaron Donald was practicing with him yesterday
In pads.
in pads. Like, they
you don't
showed
get in
that
pads and start hitting things if you're not serious.
they literally, I saw the stat yesterday. I wish I had, I will find the stat for our NFL episode. During Aaron Donald's last year, 60% of the snaps that he was on the field, he was double teamed. Myles Garrett was double teamed 30% of his snaps, which means that if you line them up on the same side, someone's getting, you can't double team both. So someone the entire game is getting free. Like, you're going to have to pick which poison that you want. If those two guys stay healthy and Aaron, I mean, I have no worries about Aaron Donald, like, coming back out. Like, he's been posting, like, workout videos of him taking 150-pound dumbbells and just, like, throwing them around like it was literally cotton candy. So me and Maul have this bet, because if they ended up going to the Super Bowl, I will fly down to his house. We're going to Sea Island, watching the course of the game in the men's locker room, which was great because we had, like, complained about it a few years ago that sometimes in men's locker rooms, they don't want people to, like, be rowdy. Well, we were in there during the World Cup with two teams that were not the USA, and dudes were screaming at the TV, and that was all I needed to know. This is a great place to be. If we can lose our minds in a men's locker room watching soccer, then I have no doubt during the Super Bowl, people are going to be throwing chairs, possibly getting hit with a 4-iron. So I'm looking forward to it. So I have a lot to look forward to the NFL season. Heads up.
Just not tonight.
I'm not going to pick the Rams to win the Super Bowl, because if I do, it won't happen because I said it on the podcast. So I got to find someone else to win the Super Bowl in the
Don't
NFL.
worry, I'll do it for you.
Yeah, we'll sabotage. But all right, well, that wraps up episode 1. We'll come back here soon for an NFL episode. I really like to try to get through the preseason, just because it seems like every preseason there's always, like, one or two, like, injuries that you're just like, ugh, I wish I had known that, especially, like, from a fantasy standpoint. You're all like, I remember this was 10 years ago, like, Jordy Nelson got hurt in the preseason, and everyone was like, yo, I just had my fantasy draft. I took him number 3 overall. Like, my season is toast. You got to hold the fantasy and the predictions till the end of the preseason.
Yeah, the preseason injuries are just killer.
Side note, we don't have to do money, but let's just, little side note bet for tonight. How many picks does Carson Beck throw?
I'll say
Cardinals are terrible, dog.
I'll say there should be at least 3. Like, but we're also dealing with, like, third string defense, and it's going to hit somebody right in the hands, or they're going to drop it. So I'm going to go with 1.
1. Okay. I'll go.
I'll say 1, but a guaranteed hitting a defender right in the hand and
3 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a minimum of 3 opportunities that should have been taken to the house.
Yes.
At least 1. Yes. So we'll find out tonight. Football's back, baby. Last Saturday until the end of February. So looking forward to it. That being said, time to pull chalk. So we'll see you guys for the NFL episode coming up.
Peace.